that is going to come to you with anything that is not worthy to come to you with. I will say, though, that we are a government that is committed to the people of Nevis, every single person here on the island of Nevis. And as such, when we say we put people first, we mean that. And our actions have certainly demonstrated such. And so, what we would have done since we've been in government, but more so over the last 2 years at least, when we would have had the most difficult period of time to deal with, a period that no other party in government has had to deal with, and that is COVID-19. And that is the reality of it. No other government or party in government have had to deal with a similar situation. And as I want to, at this point, just commend the Honorable Mark Brantley for his leadership over the past 2 years. Mark you, he became the leader of this island in 2017. But of course, 2020 was a defining moment in terms of his leadership and what he has done. And when he speaks, he can speak about every single ministry and talk about all the things that are happening there, because he would get regular reports from us. And indeed, as a cabinet, when we meet, we have that line item where we have a report from ministers on their various ministries. So I am happy he would have touched on agriculture, and there are many other things he can touch on. But let me just quickly say to you that in 2020, we would have seen somewhat of a renaissance in agriculture, a revolution, so to speak, some reinvention of the wheels as well, but we have had some tremendously good results in agriculture. I believe persons are now more inclined to get involved than in the past. Why so? Is because we have introduced various technologies in agriculture here on the island of Nevis, whereby I can say to you that in 2013, for example, we had just a single shade house on Nevis, or greenhouse. We use the word interchangeably, but that is the protected form of agriculture. So we had one greenhouse. To date, as we speak now, we have 30. So what I mean is that we have moved from 1 to 30 at this point in time. And the plans for this administration is to move to at least 50 over the next 5 years. Why we are placing such emphasis on protected agriculture is because it is a prolific form of agriculture. There have been tremendous results here on the island of Nevis, and there are a couple of farmers who can speak glowingly about that form of agriculture. McLevin Mackie is one such person. Richard Paris is another. Mr. Pinney, I forget his first name, but his establishment is up there just below Horsford's. He has a number of greenhouses there, and he's already producing. And to show you how committed we are to protected agriculture, greenhouse technology, when I was the Minister of Agriculture at the federal level, one of the first initiatives that I would have brought on board would have been the purchase of 10 new greenhouses. 5 were distributed in St. Kitts, and 5 were distributed here on the island of Nevis. For example, Mackie Truss, his is on the production. He has already started making money out of items such as cherry tomatoes, regular tomatoes, green pepper, seasoned pepper, kale, lettuce, cucumber, and the like. These are crops that we feel that we can be self-sufficient in here on the island of Nevis, and that is why we are continuing to push this. So over the next 5 years, we're hoping to reach that plateau of about 50 greenhouses. And just to demonstrate or point out to you the value of these particular input that would have made in greenhouse technology, each one of those greenhouses that were purchased just over a year ago would have cost in the region of $65,000. They're not cheap, but the return from them can be exciting, and I'm encouraging all of our young men and young women to get involved in protected agriculture. It is that form of technology that is inviting to young people, because you can set your greenhouse temperature, or you can activate your irrigation system from your smartphone. So you can be in your office in Charlestown doing some work, and then you're controlling what takes place in your greenhouse from your phone. So it makes life easier, but not necessarily eliminate the work that has to be done. You still have to go to your greenhouse to work. But it is not the open type of farming where you have to be breaking your back in the hot sun and the like. So it is something that we are encouraging our farmers, young farmers as well, to get involved in. So that is one of those things that I believe we can certainly say coming out of the pandemic, we have seen a renewed interest, both at the primary school, high school level, and also our established farmers as well have gotten involved. Further, when it comes to agriculture, we have a signature project that we undertook. Well, we would have undertaken down at Indian Castle. Many of you have heard of the Indian Castle fruit orchard, where we have a number of different crops and trees planted there. That, in my opinion, is one of those statements that we would have made in suggesting to the general public here on Nevis that anywhere on the island, any and every place here on the island is good enough to plant and viable to plant, because we would have been told in the past that Indian Castle is one of the most difficult areas to plant crops. And we have had tremendous results down there thus far, even during the dry season. And you may hear a minister responsible for water, the Honorable Spencer Brand, will say that we have brought tremendous pressure on him on the water infrastructure here on the island of Nevis. But indeed, he will speak glowingly about water as well, and we've been able to tap into those resources and make sure that we can have some production down at Indian Castle. What we have there are in excess of 4,500 coconut trees. We invested in some coconut trees because we feel, and we are strongly of the opinion that that can be an industry that we can certainly have here on the island of Nevis. We understand the health properties and the benefits of consuming jelly water. Many persons will drink even more jelly water than regular tap water or regular water, if I were to put it that way, or potable water. But we have seen tremendous results from those trees thus far. We had an open day down there 2 Saturdays ago, and I believe the responses have been overwhelming, and the responses have been positive. So we have currently over 4,500 coconut trees planted. We also have soursop, we have pongonut, we have guava, passion fruit, gooseberry. We have had some significant production of watermelon as well, and banana trees as well. We have already started transplanting banana trees. So it is a lovely, lovely plot that we have undertaken to produce as much food as we possibly can. It is 35 acres of land, and that, I believe, is just a start, because we have now moved across from that and have now started clearing another 35 acres to plant another 5,000 jelly trees. Well, it's more water, and as we say more water, well, we have been blessed with some showers in recent times, so that eased some pressure off of the water system. And of course, you get the natural rainfall, which is so good for the plants. So what we are seeking to do down the road, though, is that once we get to a level of production, we are seeking to make this a viable means of revenue for the government. By way of numbers, and making it simple for you, if we were to at least have a return of, say, about $1,000 worth of sale from each tree, say about 2,000 trees, $1,000 per month, that is $2 million just from 2,000 coconut trees, easily. Now, some may say that sounds far-fetched, but it is possible. It is for us to manage it properly and to ensure we minimize any losses down there in terms of pilferage or any negative or adverse activities down there. So it would be an area that we have to manage, and manage it properly, so that all that we are talking about, we can have significant returns in that regard. So agriculture, in my opinion, is alive and well. There have been challenges and difficulties, yes. We have predatory larceny that take place. We have the monkey situation, the donkey, the pigs, and we continue to do some culling here on the island of Nevis, but we are very careful and particular about that. But all in all, in the river, we have seen some results. We have seen results in potwork. We have seen results over there in Cades Bay. We have seen results up in Prospect. But we have to do more. And our farmers have bought into our strategies and our programs, as we have been working with them as well to produce more. We do believe that we can certainly eliminate the importation of certain produce here on the island of Nevis. Import substitution is what we aim for, but it takes commitment and it takes a government that is willing to put its money where its mouth is, and we have done so as a government and will continue to do so. So agriculture is a pillar on which we intend to build this economy moving forward. As we travel through the Virgin Islands, persons have inquired about possibly importing certain produce from the island of Nevis, one being watermelon. And what we have suggested to possible importers there is that we will speak to a couple of farmers here on the island of Nevis, and they can dedicate some of their plot to the production of watermelon, some for the overseas market and some for the local market. Why we say that is because that revenue or foreign exchange is important to them as well too, because if you collect US dollars, then you have that power to purchase in US as well, eventually, if you're buying goods from overseas, meaning equipment for your farm and the like. So agriculture, we'll speak more about that as this series of town hall meeting go throughout the island of Nevis. Let me just touch quickly on the broiler industry that we are hoping to establish here on the island of Nevis. When I say broiler, just for the edification of those of you who are here and listening, this is the production of chicken for meat purposes. And indeed, we have been talking about this for the last couple of months, and we have made some steps towards making this a reality. We are in the process of securing just about 61 acres of lands down at Webb's Estate. Those of you who are not familiar with Webb's Estate, if you were to take a straight line from Matchman, Simmons Estate, head straight down like you're going towards the ocean, you'll go right into Webb's Estate. That's a general area. And we are encouraging our young men and young women to get involved. We'll make lots available to those who want to get into this particular industry. We feel that in order for us to meet the target set by CARICOM of reducing the import of chicken and chicken parts by 25% by the year 2025, we have to play our part here in Nevis as well, and by extension, St. Kitts and Nevis, to meet that target. And I do believe we can. We have put an incentive package, a package of incentives in place in terms of duty-free concession on feed, duty-free concession on the material and equipment needed to set up your farm, duty-free concession on a vehicle. Also, we're looking at the waiver of corporate taxes for at least the first 5 years. So what I'm giving you here are an incentive package for the first 5 years so that you can establish your business and making it viable so that after 5 years, you should be able to say, well, this is the business that I want to continue with, because the sales will be there. People believe in consuming locally produced products, including chicken, fresh and wholesome. I want to say to you that when chicken come here to our shores, you never can tell how long they have been refrigerated. Some have been refrigerated for 6 months, or some have gone to a particular grocery or supermarket, didn't get sold, and they return to the processing or packing plant, and then they're packed and sent to us. And so you can never be guaranteed of consuming anything local, or it can be local anyway, because once you have to refrigerate it and it travels the ocean to us and get here, comes through customs and then into the various supermarkets here, it cannot be fresh. So we want to produce fresh, wholesome, nutritious chicken right here on the island of Nevis. The good thing is that we have been self-sufficient in eggs, and we've done a good job on the layer side of it. So our young men and young women have something to look forward to in terms of an additional source of income going into the future, and we'll support everyone as much as we can. I'll get off of agriculture quickly and just go quickly into housing. For example, we continue to construct houses, quality houses here on the island of Nevis, and affordable still, even though we have seen a tremendous increase in the cost of building materials. We have maintained a manageable and affordable cost of our housing. People have been saying that the houses are expensive, but I'll say this to you. The same house that we built, for example, 750 square feet at the NHLDC, If you were to go out on the open market, if we sell that, for example, at $250,000, I can almost guarantee you that you'll have to add another $100,000 on that if you were to go on the open market. So we're still cushioning that particular burden for all young men and young women, and we'll do so for as long as it takes, because we do believe that there's some pride in owning your own home. There's some pride in owning your own property, raising your family, and ensuring that you have the necessary equity that you can use going forward to build your life and to build your family's life. I just want to touch quickly on one other thing. As you traverse the waters of St. Kitts and Nevis between Ouali and, Reggae Beach, we did so this evening. We did so from the Ouali water taxi facility. And that is one of the major accomplishments of this government, irrespective of what you might hear. That particular infrastructure have transformed and revolutionized travel between the islands of St. Kitts and Nevis. Gone are the days back in 1983, for example, when you took Caribbean Queen from here in Charlestown, take about 45 minutes across to Bass there, and you had to be there. You leave here 7:30 in the morning and had to be there until 4 o'clock when the next ferry comes back to Nevis. Over time, that would have changed with the addition of some more ferries that came into operation. But we have seen a transformation over there at Ouali where you can actually go down to the pier and snap your finger and say, I want to go to Reggae Beach. And a boat is there for you to go. That is called development. And that is called the advancement of any country or island whereby transportation is accessible and reliable. That makes doing business much easier. You can, as a matter of fact, let me give you a quick example. When I was the Minister of Agriculture in St. Kitts, my permanent secretary there used to come to Reggae Beach. I get on a boat and go across, sign a document, and within 10 minutes I'm back in Nevis. That was not possible in 1990. It wasn't possible in 1990. 2000, it wasn't possible, let's say even 5 years ago. But it is possible now. You don't have to go to St. Kitts early in the morning to catch a plane at 2:30 in the afternoon. You can leave here midday and you're at the airport at RLB, for example, and vice versa, because people come to Nevis via the water taxi facility to catch a plane out of here to St. Croix and the Virgin Islands on a whole. So that is progress, I will say. But of course, some would have sought to make heavy weather out of the facility. I want to say to you that we have spent just about $5,807,916.28 on that facility. And here's where the cost would have been incurred. In the first instance, you wanted a waterfront property to set up this facility. You cannot just build a pier in the ocean and then say we have a pier and then swim to land. You have to connect it to land. And when I hear this talk about $6 million being spent on a pier, it makes you feel like something has gone wrong. The facility or the property that we bought would have cost us $3,803,660. And that is at 1 million, just about 1.2 million US dollars. So that had to be bought first. You buy that out of the $6 million which we got. Then the pier itself costs $595,000 US dollars. That is just about $1,621,881.41. You add those numbers. And then you would have incurred some additional cost to put that, that revetment stonework in front of the property to protect it. You built a bathroom, you fenced it, put security in place, and all of the additional expenses would have brought it to $5,807,916.28. Money well spent. And here's why its money is well spent. All of the operators that are there are local operators. Not one person from St. Kitts own a boat that transport passengers to and from St. Kitts and Nevis. They employ people, they pay their taxes, they pay social security, and they buy services or pay for services and material that is needed. Fuel, repair to the boat. They have to buy engines from time to time, I'm sure. And all of those things are done and money is placed into the economy. And the bottom line is it is all division owned. Flip that over, and the reason why I brought that up is because of the wisdom of this cabinet in not allowing a single person to build a pier and operate, like the Sea Bridge. The Sea Bridge is there, and the only operator since 2007 is that boat you see over there. This now ensures that multiple persons, any one of you inside here, can buy a boat tomorrow, get it licensed, registered, and put the necessary things in place and start operating and make money. That is how we think as a government. Every single person must have a chance. But some other persons wanted to build it down at the bottom of cotton ground, where one person would have been the owner, one person would have been the operator, and one person would have made all the money here on the island of Nevis. Multiple people can now make money. And I'm so happy for all of the operators. I'm so happy for everyone who works there and benefit as a result of the thinking of this administration. And we must be commended. You know what? I'm going to stop there because I see I'm getting some signals that I'm going beyond my time, but we'll have many more time to. Well beyond. Well beyond. You see, I get excited when we're reporting good things. Good things are happening in Nevis. And when we say something good is happening, man, it's not just words. It is a belief and it's action as well too, because if you believe it can happen, it will happen, and it has happened here on the island of Nevis, where good things have happened. I'm going to stop there for now and take your questions later and pass over to Mikhail or Spencer. Spencer.
Good evening, everyone. And let me say a very special good evening to my colleagues here at the head table, our Premier and our Deputy Premier, and of course our Public Relations Officer, and to this very wonderful audience who took the time to join us here tonight at this town hall. I hope I won't be as long as my two colleagues, but I will try and get through my presentation very quickly, because I think the idea is to try and interact with you and to hear from you and to listen to your questions as to what is exactly on your mind. I have the responsibility of water, and I'm going to start with water, seeing that my good colleague here has finally admitted that he's putting me under pressure when it comes to water. But I believe that we are doing some remarkable things here on the island of Nevis when it comes to water. For example, at the moment we are constructing a 250,000 gallon water tank in the Pond Hill area. And those of you who are from the Pond Hill would recall that at Pond Hill, we had a fiberglass water tank there at Pond Hill. It has been there for a while, and it has run into some difficulty where it has virtually passed its sell-by date. And we took a decision to remove that fiberglass tank, and we are now in the process of constructing a 250,000 gallon glass-fused steel water tank. Now, why is this tank important? It is important because at the moment we are moving water all the way from Gingerland into places like Church Ground, Pond Hill, Brown Hill, Bath Village. And we want to ensure that we can build some additional redundancy in the system, where if we have a situation develop in Gingerland, that all of these areas would not be out of water. Hence, we are constructing that 250,000 gallon water storage tank there at Pond Hill. Now, while we are constructing that water tank, we continue to see development upgrade in our water distribution. And at the moment, you would recognize that we are doing some major road construction in Bath Village. And while we are doing that major road construction, we are taking the opportunity to upgrade our water service line and our water distribution line. In Bath Village, we had some very old service lines, and we are now replacing them with some 4-inch polyurethane pipes there in Bath Village, which will not only improve the distribution, but will also improve the pressure in the Bath Village area. We are also doing some road construction in the Butlers area. And again, while we are doing this road construction in these various areas, we are taking the opportunity to upgrade our water distribution and our water main service lines in Butlers as well. Because we feel that it doesn't make sense to expend these significant sums of money to do road construction, and then we have to come back and replace old pipes or pipes that is not in the best of condition. So we are taking the opportunity while we are doing those roads to improve our pipe infrastructure as well. In Hamilton, as part of our water advancement, when I became the minister with responsibility for water, I met a situation in Hamilton where there was a very high yielding well in Hamilton, but it had some contaminants in it that was not acceptable to World Health Organization standard. So as a cabinet, we took the decision to purchase what we call a water filtration system. And that water filtration system allows us to utilize the water from that very high yielding well and have it placed into our water network that is now helping us during the very difficult drought period that we recently had. I can say to you, if we were not in possession of that water filtration system, I believe that the last drought period in Nevis would have been a totally different story. And I want to not only thank my cabinet colleagues for their support with this initiative, but I believe that it brings some relief for the people of Nevis. Some people ask the question, what do we do with $400 million? Well, they can go up at Hamilton and see what is at Hamilton with this $400 million. I would also say that at Hamilton, we also constructed a 400,000 gallon water storage tank. Again, replacing an old fiberglass tank there in Hamilton. And we even went a bit further. We had an old stone storage tank there in Hamilton. The roof had collapsed. And we took the decision to have that roof replaced, giving an additional 150 plus gallon of water there in Hamilton. So in Hamilton alone, we have, I think, over 500,000 gallons of water. In Pond Hill, we will be ensuring that we have at least 250,000 gallons of water there in Pond Hill. Again, building redundancy in the system when it comes to our water development. I want to switch very quickly to planning, because I have oversight of planning as well. And two very noteworthy things would have taken place at planning. The first is we would have gone into Parliament and we would have passed what we call some regulations for our Nevis Physical Planning and Development Ordinance. Now, while we had the regulation, while we had the legislation, there was no regulation that went with them. And after a very long period of time, and I want to commend my predecessor of planning, Minister Troy Liebert, because he would have started that work. And I believe as a minister, you come behind someone, you see something that makes sense, you continue it. It's not like some people, because they come into government and they change everything that the previous government were doing. That doesn't really make sense. So I want to commend Minister Liebert, because he would have started the initiative. I recognize the importance of those regulations, and we would have ensured that now the physical planning ordinance does have these regulations. It gives clarity to what we do in our developments on the island of Nevis. It allows developers, architects, homeowners, the necessary procedures that they need to follow when it comes to development on the island of Nevis. The second thing I want to speak about when it comes to planning is that we are in the process of finalizing our Nevis physical plan. And that physical plan gives guidance as to what we do where on the island of Nevis. I think that if we are serious about developing our island, we must be able to say to our people that you can do this here and you can't do this here. Otherwise, we are going to end up in a situation where perhaps you may have a mechanic shop in the heart of a residential area, and that does not make sense. So our development plan will be coming on stream in the very near future, and I'm hoping that the people of Nevis would be guided by that development plan. I want to very quickly give an update as it relates to a number of road project development that we are ongoing. As I mentioned earlier, we are doing Bath Village and we are doing Butlers. These are two major infrastructure projects on the island of Nevis. Butlers is nearing completion, and I know that I would be less harassed by my good colleague here. But as I said in the Virgin Islands to our many divisions there, that when they return to Nevis, they probably may get lost in Butlers because of the transformation that we have seen in Butlers. And those divisions who are living here in Nevis who have not been to Butlers in some time, I want to suggest to you to take a drive through Butlers and have a look at what we are doing there in Butlers. Also in Bath Village, we are doing some major upgrade in Bath Village from the roundabout all the way over to Mr. Dick, Crafton Dick area. And we are hoping that early in the new year, we will see the completion of that project. I am also happy to report that on the 14th of October, we would have signed a contract with Surrey Paving to start the second phase of the Island Main Road from Cliff Dwellers to the entrance of Mount Nevis and from Shoys Road to Nisbets. Now, all of us knows that the road condition in that area has been in a deplorable condition for some time. And I believe that every motorist on the island of Nevis, if they are honest enough, that this is a stretch of road that needed to be done long time ago. And I'm happy to say that my cabinet colleagues would have asked me to not only approach the Bank of Nevis, which we did, and I want to say my hearty thank you to the Bank of Nevis for giving their consent to some $11 million for us to construct this road. Now, some people may say $11 million for 3.4 kilometers of road. Why is it? Why is that price? And ask questions. But it is not just a piece of road. We are ensuring that we deal with a number of safety issues along that stretch of road. We have seen some videos over the last few days from the heavy rains. And I'm saying to you, if we had motorists on those roads over the last few days, we may have lost someone going down those guts. The gut there by the Newcastle police station is a hazard. We intend to correct that. We have some situation there in the area of Owali Beach. We normally have some flooding in those areas. We are also expecting to correct those issues. The Hurricane Hill, when you come around the corner there, it is the intention for us to take off a piece of that hill and make the profile of the road a lot more smoother so motorists can see more clearly going around the corner. So all of those are safety mechanism that is being built into this particular project. Additionally, the Public Works Department continued to assist various ministries, and one of the projects that we have recently completed was the significant upgrade of our netball complex. Now, I want to take this opportunity to appeal to our people that while the government continued to extend these significant sums of money to upgrade these facilities, I want to encourage our people to use these facilities. It doesn't make sense for the government to spend this kind of money and those facilities are just sitting down there. I want to encourage our people to use them. But I also want to say to our people to please, please, please take care of those facilities because they cost a significant sum of money. We resurfaced the both netball court and I believe the basketball court as well. We upgraded the entire electrical system there at the complex. The bathrooms, all of the dressing areas, all of those areas have been significantly upgraded. And I'm hoping that we would see netball in Nevis move from strength to strength. So I really want to thank well, my colleague minister who is not here, Minister Evelyn, for his partnership in ensuring that we completed that project. Now, you often hear that all politics are local. And I sat this afternoon and I tried to list a number of things that happened in St. Paul's in particular. And I kind of stopped writing. You know why? Because some people are saying that nothing is happening and they don't see what is happening. But I want us to think, we are in St. Paul's, so I'm going to talk about St. Paul's for a moment. Let us look at Craddock Road. From the top of Craddock Road all the way down to the base, to the Island Main Road. And from Big Rock all the way down to TDC. But some people are saying nothing is happening. We not only reconstructed the entire stretch of Craddock Road, but we also upgraded the water infrastructure in Craddock Road as well. Now, I was told by a good gentleman in Craddock Road that nothing has happened in Craddock Road for over 50 years. And I'm just 52, so I could imagine that when they were doing Craddock Road, I was just mere a child. But I want to say as well that while we continue to see the upgrade in Craddock Road, we have seen upgrade as well in Chapel Street, Prince William Street, Jews Street, in the area there by the Methodist Church, Main Street. We have dealt with some drainage in Ramsbury and in Craddock Road, but yet they say nothing is happening. We have seen the addition of a top floor at the Charlestown Primary School, where the principal of the Charlestown Primary School and her staff was basically in a very small office space. And one of the very first projects that I decided to have executed was to ensure that we expanded the office of the Charlestown Primary School. I believe that the teachers, the head teacher, all of the management staff at the Charlestown Primary School is a lot more comfortable because of that expansion. We continue to ensure that, I'm going to pivot on something that probably the Premier missed. I don't know if he missed it or he just did not say it. But the CCTV building in Charlestown, they say nothing is happening. But the kind of monies that have been expended in the safety of the island of Nevis, I believe that some people are being hypocritical to say that nothing is happening in Nevis. Not all yet. But another significant accomplishment as well of this government is Brownhill. I want you to think about Brownhill. I told a gentleman in the Virgin Islands that when he come back to Nevis, he's from Brownhill, and he said he haven't been back in Nevis for over 5 years. I said to him, when he comes back to Nevis, make sure that he have somebody to take him into Brownhill and through Brownhill, because he might get lost. All of these are major development on the island of Nevis. And I want to say to our people that if they are honest, if they are truthful, that this government, despite that we have lost 2 years, 2020 and 2021, this is a government that practically just had 2.5 years of the significant development that we have seen over the last 5 years, even though we would have lost 2 years of those 5 years. I want to stop there for this at this time, and I am looking forward to the various questions from the audience, and I'm hoping that we will have a very robust discussion here tonight. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you, ministers. And now we're going to be taking questions. We'll be fielding questions from the audience, and we'll also be taking questions from the live. So I guess we'll get the ball started. Any questions?
I think in the interest of time, while we wait on the questions to come, we took some time to explain what we have been doing. And frankly, we only really scratched the surface. I was saying to Minister Brand while he was talking that he forgot all the roads he did in Stony Grove, for example. And certainly improvements to our schools, improvements generally. We have the hospital wing that is being done. We say all the time it's a wing, but it's actually 2.5 times the size of the existing hospital. I think that point needs to be emphasized, because sometimes you hear the chatter that, oh, it's taking too long. And yes, there have been some delays, but we had 2 years of COVID as well. But that facility is 2.5 times the size of the existing hospital. So it's really a whole new hospital complex that is being created there at Alexandra. And I believe that that is important. We did not mention the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park, again, built during COVID. It was opened on the 19th of December, 2021. So it hasn't yet gone a year. And I was quite impressed to learn that already we have recorded some 35,104 visitors at the Malcolm Gishard Park in less than 1 year. People are coming from St. Kitts, people are enjoying the park, picnicking, weddings, you name it. The Mondo track, that has not been mentioned either, but I think that that is important, because I saw the Charleston Primary School recently go to St. Kitts and win the first ever relay competition. And some sought to say the Mondo track didn't have anything to do with it. But what I will say is this. Prior to that track being built and us investing something in the region of $10 million on that facility, our children were running on grass, and if there was no rain, on dirt, up at the ETW park. And it was difficult for them to transition from that to going over to St. Kitts, for example, to compete with their peers over there who are accustomed to running on a proper facility. And so that is an investment we made. And I believe that those children at the Charleston Primary School, in fact, I recall that there were probably over 20 teams or thereabouts, and all the teams from Nevis were in the top 10. So that, I think, is important. In terms of electricity, I think all of us remember a time when electricity was on and off. And yes, from time to time we still have outages, but this government has invested. In fact, in the last 5 years, we have purchased 2 Wärtsilä engines, brand new, at a cost, those engines cost somewhere in the region of about 15 million EC dollars each, if I recall. 13.5. Right? So we've had 2 at a cost of about $30 million. So, you know, you hear the constant sound and fury about either nothing is happening or where's the money being spent. But we are here on the lights right now. The island has electricity which is stable. And I'm not suggesting that from time to time, you know, a car drives on the road and it hits a pole and we have a problem. But the investment that we have made, and we need to, for example, look across the waters to St. Kitts, where they've had far more resources than we have had. And I was listening to the new Minister of Energy over there, who was saying that they were actually on the brink because they had not invested over the years in engines in St. Kitts. We did. You look at water. The new Minister of Water in St. Kitts said tonight something that I made a note of. He said that currently they cannot supply St. Kitts with water 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It means that water rationing is a part of the daily life of our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts. That doesn't happen in Nevis. Whenever there's an outage, it's because there's a problem and something is being resolved. And that, again, is because of the tremendous investment made in water distribution, water storage, water treatment over the years. So we can't, in my view, take these things for granted, because these are long-term investments for the quality of life of our people. We have questions, so I'll stop there.
All right, these questions are from the live. Minister Brand, you have spoken about infrastructure around the island. What have you done in St. Paul's? And, well, I'm reading the questions. Yeah. And then, what is the status of geothermal?
Thank you very much from the person. Say, person is on in the live?
Yes, and one more question. What's the NIA's legal status?
What have I done in St. Paul's? Probably the person tuned in a bit late, but I would go through it again for clarity.
We had some technical difficulties with the live, so it's
but that's all right. That's all right. We'll go through it again. You know, it's good to repeat. I want to say to that person and others who are listening, Quaddock Road. We did the complete reconstruction of Quaddock Road from the top of Quaddock Road all the way down to the base to the Island Main Road. From Big Rock, and I get some licks for taking off piece of Big Rock too. From Big Rock going down to TDC. Sorry? Well, we reconstructed from Big Rock all the way down to TDC. We not only did the road infrastructure, we also upgraded the water distribution lines in that project. We went a bit further. We dealt with some drainage issues in Quaddock Road to the back of Miss Barrett, I think her name is. That got to the back of Miss Barrett, going down into where that preschool is. What's the name of the preschool? Vernon Loop Preschool. We took care of some drainage issues in that area. So, Quaddock Road. We did a complete reconstruction of Quaddock Road. I want to list for that person a number of additional roads that we did. We did the road in front of Crown Bakery going all the way up to DC. We did the road from Water Department going all the way up to Pastor Salome James area. We did the road from Mr. Stephen Jones, passing the property of the first West Indian who made West Indies team. He was driving on deplorable road for many years. And I went in and I ensured that he was able to drive on a very nice piece of road to his property. Very comfortable. We fixed a number of drainage issues in Ramsbury. A number of homeowners in Ramsbury were complaining for continuous flooding on their property. We were able to acquire some pieces of land from the Anglican Church and also from the Methodist Church to create sidewalk in those areas. We did maybe a very simple project, but very important project right next to the Charlestown Police Station. We created some sidewalk there. I remember that very clearly because there was a Culturama parade of troops. And you step off of the edge of the road, and we had some children between that building and the trolley. And I was horrified to see that there were some children there that almost got squeezed. And I made it a priority that if I ever get into government, that would be something that we needed to remedy. And I also indicated that we would have rehabilitated Chapel Street, Main Street, Jew Street, medical center area. Sorry? Well, I also, I'm happy to say to that person that we would have expanded the office at the Charlestown Primary School. Housing, I was very instrumental in accessing 2 pieces of land for persons in Charlestown to own their own homes. And I want to backtrack a bit on that, because when I became the minister, the Nevis Island government did not own 1 square foot of land in Charlestown when it comes to land for housing. And I made it a point that why should someone who lives in Hamilton have to venture out of their neighborhood to reside? And it was very important for me to procure those 2 pieces of land for housing in those areas. The Hamilton water filtration system and storage tank, that for me was also critical. And I think that 2 additional pieces of land that I want to remind the people of Charlestown that we were able to acquire. There's a piece of land at the top of Government Road and the intersection of the bypass road. Your government would have acquired that piece of land for the use of the people of Charlestown. There is another piece of land on the other side of Boko Park, just below that nursery. That piece of land was purchased in 2019 with the hope of ensuring, that they can have a piece of land for community use. Presently, at the moment, we are in the process of remedying a situation with a number of squatters on Government Road and Marion Avenue. A number of families there who have been asked to vacate that plot of land. And we are in the process of procuring that land, and the aim is that we will be able to distribute that land to those 6 families there in the heart of Government Road. So to that person who asked, what have I done in Charlestown? I think those are just a few snippets as to what I have done in Charlestown. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Minister. You see, we work as a team. In Craddock Road, we are constructing some 21 houses. 21 houses in Craddock Road. And in Hamilton, we are also constructing some 14 homes, 14 families. 14 families and 21 families. And I believe that that is a significant accomplishment for the people of St. Paul's.
Imagine all that, and he lost 2 years to COVID. You asked about geothermal, and I'm very pleased to report that we finally, I think, have some momentum in relation to geothermal. Geothermal, we are told that the island of Nevis has one of the best resources in the world, but that is of no value to us unless we can harness it. And the problem that we've encountered over all these years is that we could not find a developer with the resources, financial resources to harness it. But we have engaged with the Caribbean Development Bank. The Caribbean Development Bank has funds that are available from IDB, Green Climate Funds. As you know, the world now is consumed with climate change and trying to correct that and moving towards green energy, renewable energy. And so they have come on board, and they've offered us something called a contingent recoverable grant. What it means is that they will provide the money by way of grant to do the drilling. If the drilling is successful, which they anticipate it will be, then they will convert that to a long-term, low-interest loan. We were held up for several months because the CDB, because it is a regional institution, engages with the federal government. That is their point of contact. And so while they were dealing with the technical details with the NIA, they needed a letter from the federal government, basically to say they didn't object to what was happening. Unfortunately, that letter was not forthcoming for quite some time. The new Prime Minister, however, within a matter of weeks on taking office, issued the letter that we needed to the CDB. And so the CDB is now moving full speed ahead. In fact, we had some 10 consultants, one group of 7, another group of 3, that came here just last week to finalize various aspects of this as they tried to get it to the CDB board meeting, which will happen in December. They are simultaneously trying to select the drillers, and the hope would be that in the new year, we can proceed full throttle in relation to geothermal energy. Just so that the people who might be listening in St. Kitts are aware that the federal government does have an interest in this project because, of course, it would mean that we potentially can supply all of Nevis and all of St. Kitts with much cheaper energy. And to put it in context for you, we are now paying upwards of 30 cents per kilowatt hour, US cents per kilowatt hour, for diesel-generated electricity. Geothermal, we expect, is going to come in at around 9 or 10 cents per kilowatt hour. So the difference is enormous. In addition, the specialists are telling us that we must also now look beyond electricity generation, that the byproducts of geothermal can also be very valuable for developing new industries. So they're now telling us that from the ammonia we can make fertilizer, that hydrogen is a product that is now highly valued. In fact, while we were at the town hall meeting in, I believe it was in Tortola, I got a message from one of the consultants from the CDB, which said that Germany had just received their first shipment of hydrogen from Canada. So the war in Ukraine has caused havoc. It has created huge supply chain issues. There's great difficulty now. Energy prices have gone up. And we hear all around the world people complain about the cost of electricity, the cost of gas, the cost of fuel generally. Geothermal allows us a complete solution. And so we are very optimistic that we are finally seeing some light at the end of this long tunnel. Because I will only remind the people of Nevis that this geothermal odyssey started back in 2004. So it's been 18 years since we've been talking about geothermal. And I believe that we finally have some momentum in relation to this particular project with the assistance of the experts at the Caribbean Development Bank and using funds that they have available for exactly this type of development.
There was one more question, the NIA legal status.
The NIA legal status is not and has never been in doubt. I want to make that very clear. The situation was that we had a court decision, a court of appeal took a particular decision on a matter that they weren't asked the question, but they decided to ask themselves and proceed to answer it. And that had to do with whether or not the Nevis Island Administration had legal standing to bring civil actions, to sue and be sued in the courts. And the Court of Appeal concluded that the NIA did not have that ability and had to go through the Attorney General in St. Kitts. It was interesting because the matter was not before the court for decision. The Chief Justice is the one who invited the lawyers to give her their view on the matter. All the lawyers involved in the case said that the NIA could sue and be sued. And the Chief Justice disagreed with everyone and concluded that that was not the case. We have already developed a workaround in that in the short term we'll get the fiat or permission from the AG. Longer term we're simply going to amend the legislation to make it clear that the NIA has that legal standing. But just to put it in context, prior to that case, the NIA has been sued and has been suing for 40 years. We have had a number of cases. The Constitution gives the NIA not only power, but exclusive power in relation to certain matters. And so the case creates this conundrum that the NIA, for example, is responsible for lands on Nevis. But if the NIA were to deal with lands and it leads to some legal dispute, the NIA cannot be sued or cannot sue. So certainly that runs a cart and buggy through the Constitution. So that is being resolved. There is no question about the legal standing of the NIA. The NIA is a creature of the Constitution, the highest law of the land. And so I will assure that person asking that question that this is a matter that is well in hand and that they shouldn't anticipate that there should be any difficulties.
All right, thank you. Honorable Alexis Jeffers, the airport is in your constituency. What are your plans to revive it? Also, what is the current status, what is the current relationship with the federal government? And also, what is the current status of the hospital and the CAT scan machine? Did you receive it?
Okay, regarding the Van Samre International Airport, we are of the firm belief that for Nevis to advance any further, there must be airlift coming in and going out of the Van Samre International Airport. We've had some glory days in the past when the American Eagle used to fly out of Puerto Rico. Coastal Air still flies. Liat used to come. I recall in the past I would have flown from Puerto Rico to Nevis and then on Liat, and then Liat would journey on to Antigua. So there was somewhat of an island hopping type of situation where Tortola was involved, Nevis, and then on to Antigua. Made it easy for those of us who were traveling. Back in the early 2000s, we were able to make those connections. Well, a lot of things have changed over the years in that the way people travel these days have changed. A lot of people like to be on those wide-body jets and jetting off to Miami or in New York in some cases. And of course, the airport there currently is inadequate for such movement. What we have sought to do as an administration is to look at the overall development and improvement of that facility. At least we have started some work already in that we would have engaged, and you have heard the Premier speak about this from time to time. But when the expansion and upgrade work was being done at Argyle Airport in St. Vincent, I sought out the consultants who were working there, who were overseeing the construction of that airport, and got a hold of Perez Construction, engineering firm. I forgot the exact, but they're Perez Engineering and Construction firm, yes. Now, they were the ones who were spearheading that particular upgrade. And they have come to Nevis and they've done an extensive amount of work in that they have done soil testing, they have done some work in terms of going even up on top of Hurricane Hill, and they would have done some surveys, and they have some data that they currently have, and we are still engaging them in terms of into the future when we intend to proceed with the overall expansion of that facility. Now, we have also had some valuation done of the properties north of the runway, those houses that run from, you know, the restaurant Drift all the way up to Newcastle Bay Marinas, all those properties along that line. Because we feel that that side of the runway we will have to use in terms of hangar, fuel, facility, jet parking and the like. We have seriously done some work to this point. Early in the new year, we'll take it a step further where we'll continue to engage the homeowners there with the view of either acquiring or purchasing properties so that those areas would then form part of the Van Summer International Airport facility and perimeter. We're hoping to at least achieve just about 5,600 feet of runway when it's all said and done. We'll go eastwards and some westwards. And that would accommodate a jet, for example, that you see going into Anguilla and Dominica, that is the Embraer 175, carries up to about 100 passengers, 86 to 100 passengers thereabout, depending on how they would configure an aircraft like that. We believe we need that connection because currently that same aircraft flies from Miami to Anguilla. It flies from Miami to Dominica as well. That is the American Eagle, but this is a jet type now, not a turboprop as they had before. So the movement of American Airlines out of Puerto Rico into Miami as a hub would have created difficulties for us as well with the closure of American Eagle turboprop engines flying into Nevis. But we see some hope on the horizon. I do believe that we can get back those glory days to some extent. We have a thriving tourism industry, and I'm sure all our guests would want to come directly to Nevis, and we see the need for that because we do believe that the easier access you have to the island, the more you'd want to come, and we want our people to be here. Let's say, for example, by midday on a given day, and then in an hour time they're on the beach enjoying their vacation instead of going around to different countries or different islands to get to us. We want them to come direct, and we are seeking to do that. As a matter of fact, there are persons who are buying properties here on the island of Nevis as well. Those rich folks who have those private jets. You know, as with anyone else with a BMW, Mercedes, Benz, you love to see your own little toy in the front of your yard, your car. You want to have a look at it. And I'm sure when they drive past the Van Summer International Airport, they want to look at their toy as well. So they want to fly here and not park in St. Martin and come or park in St. Kitts or Antigua, for that matter. As a matter of fact, in the past, I've heard person park all the way in Barbados and then fly up to Nevis. We don't want that to be the case moving forward if we are to develop as an island and provide the type of amenities here that a developing island or country should have. So that is high on the agenda of this administration, and we will get that accomplished with the type of dedication that we have as a government. Remember I said before, if you believe it can happen and you work towards it happening, it will happen, and we're going to work towards that. So that is in my constituency. I'll be so happy when that happens.
Thank you, Honorable. Another question is here, but this one will be for Honorable Spencer Brand. The Honorable Eric Levin speaks of upgrades across all fields on the island and sporting facilities. What is the plan for further upgrade of the Ramsbury playing field? But as a reminder, we have 2 questions before that. We have what is the current status of the hospital and the CAT scan machine? And what is the current relationship with the federal government?
Well, if I may take the question as it relates to the Ramsbury playfield. I think that we need to have a much broader look at our sporting facility, especially in St. Paul's. We have the E.T. Willis Park and we also have the Ramsbury playfield. I believe that we need to get to a stage where we probably need to come to some determination as to exactly what will we do when it comes to the E.T. Willis Park. To answer your question directly, just before COVID, Cabinet would have given basically their approval to have certain facilities constructed at the Ramsbury playfield. Some bleachers, some bathrooms, bar, and some other amenities there on that field. As most other things, COVID came and a number of those things were derailed. I think the Minister of Youth and Sports, we already would have had that partnership. The aim is that we can ensure that we will see that development at the Ramsbury playfield. We intend to also go a bit further in ensuring that we fence the entire field, because there is a gentleman who works at Public Works. I think everybody knows him well, Elroy Jimbo David. He often gives me some tough love, so to speak, when it comes to what is taking place there. The reality is that the field needs to be fenced and secured, because a lot of animals often go onto the field and interfere, so to speak, with the pitch. So that is something that we have looked at. It is something that we were well trained in ensuring that we constructed those facilities, bathroom, bleachers, bar, some facilities for the players. But we were not able to do it because of COVID. We basically did not have the resources at the time. As the Premier would have indicated earlier, we took some very hard decision as to where we were going to spend our very limited resources. And it was felt that resources needed to be spent in health, in agriculture, and of course in education. Because I think during COVID, the transition, so to speak, in terms of ensuring that we continue to educate our children was critical and paramount. And so that was one of those projects that, had to be delayed. I am hoping that, and I am expecting that very shortly in the new dispensation, that would be a project that we will come on stream very, very quickly.
The question was about the current relationship with the federal government. The federal government, of course, is new. The Labour administration won the elections on the 5th of August. I think that the relationship thus far has been quite good. I have had several meetings and multiple telephone exchanges with the new Prime Minister, Dr. Drew, and thus far I found him to be a man of his word. In fact, he released to the island of Nevis some $1.2 million US from funds made available to his office by the government and people of the Republic of China, Taiwan. And that money has already gone as a down payment for a second phase of the Pinnis Park project, which will take care of things like some engineering issues, drainage issues, a boardwalk, bathrooms, and of course fixing the roads and the aesthetics, including planting some coconut palms there at Pinnis, where the restaurants are. So I think thus far the relationship is quite good. He has invited myself and the Honorable Alexis Jeffers to join him next week, Saturday, on his first official state visit to Taiwan. And so we will be out of the jurisdiction. It will be the very first time that a Prime Minister and Premier would be traveling in that way. In relation to the hospital, I had sort of reported that earlier, that the project is going well. We were doing simultaneously a new kitchen facility. The last report we got from the Junior Minister, the Honorable Hazel Brandy, was that the windows are now in. and that is bringing an end to that project, which is the kitchen. In relation to the main hospital expansion, we are doing doors and internal works on that now, and I'm anticipating that that should be to some sense of completion in the new year. CT scan machine, we had some terrible issues with shipping, but the last report we got at the cabinet yesterday was that that machine is now on St. Kitts and it should have been shipped over today, and if not today, it should come tomorrow. I tried to get confirmation that it was in Nevis today, but I haven't yet got that. Unfortunately for us, it stayed, we're told, in a container at a port in Jamaica for several weeks, because they simply could not get it transshipped in time to get it to us. Well, it's here now, it's in the Federation, and the technicians will arrive shortly from Philips to do the installation. When this is done, it will take our diagnostic ability to a whole new level. This machine costs well over $1 million US, and we were able to procure it through a partnership with the Drahi Foundation, and this will allow our doctors to do the type of diagnostics that were not hitherto available to them. So we used to have to send people to St. Kitts. In fact, a very dear friend of mine had a problem, went to St. Kitts, the machine wasn't working. Ended up having to go to Antigua to be diagnosed properly. So we think that this will be great for us. We think that the people from St. Kitts will come over, and people maybe from other islands will come as well. This, I'm told, is a 128 slice, brand new Philips CT scan. It is the second, I'm told, in the entire sub-region. I gather Grenada has one, but nowhere else do they have this level of technology available. So I think this is a quantum leap forward for the island of Nevis, and certainly we look forward to our brothers and sisters from St. Kitts using the facility as well.
Thank you. What we're going to do now is we're going to... Oh, question. Okay.
Good night, everyone. My question, I don't been asked it already, but I ask it again. Why we don't have a daycare, a government daycare, and the island? To go to a private daycare is very expensive. Well, me for sure is $900. I work for like $1,500 a month. 900 out of it is daycare. And I was wondering, like, when you come to housing, why can't it be it got an area where families that are less fortunate can have like a wooden structure and this particular area? Because, you know, if the COVID come and affect the whole island so bad, you could imagine, and the poorest set of families. And about the hospital, I could vote for that. It is near completion. I work there. It is near completion, and I would like to thank the ministers for that, because, you know, the hospital is very important. And the next thing, we promote baby-friendly environment, but we have not got an area where we could pump the milk. Like, I have a newborn and I don't have an area, a designated area to go and pump. And I cannot pump the milk in the bathroom and give it to the baby. So that was some of my concern. Like, we don't have an area at the home. Even the whole general hospital, we don't have an area at this point to go. And myself and a girl have newborns, and we don't have any area to go. And but because the fact that we promoting baby friendly, which is breastfeeding for the 6 months and whatnot, you know, it's very difficult in that part. And again, I would like to congratulate Miss Jones. That is a plus, a plus, because, you know, women understand women issues. So That is a plus. But you know about the housing, it would be everybody deserves to own their own house, even if it's a wooden structure. Meaning, I don't think it's gonna be for free. I don't expect it to be for free, but you know, it could be a wooden structure with, and just, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just asking. Yeah, and about the deck here, because it's very expensive to go to a private deck here. But when you have to work, the father is working, what can you do? So it's so expensive to send them, and you can't stay at home because, you know.
No. Okay. Yeah, let me try and get to the housing question that you raised. Um, it's an idea to consider. There are different style of housing that we may have to consider moving forward as well. But we also have to be cognizant of the fact that we are living in a hurricane belt, so to speak. And anything you do will have to be of a certain standard so that we don't create a difficulty down the road where you build something this year and God forbid you get a hurricane, a category 5, and then you and your family is in a structure that is not capable of withstanding such. So it is something to consider in terms of what can we do outside of what we're doing right now. We feel the houses we're building are of a high quality in terms of withstanding certain categories, almost up to a category 5. Anything below that, if we build something that is of a lesser standard, then of course you'll have challenges. But I'm not saying all that to rule out the thought that you have. It will be something that we can consider and probably start to scour the universe to see what structures are out there that perhaps can be within a price range that fits your budget or someone in your particular means of income. But it's difficult based on the cost these days. We have seen an explosion in cost in everything. And when I tell you that a year ago a sheet of plywood probably would have cost maybe less than $100, it's about $260 now for one sheet. So it tells you where we're headed. But everything is cyclical, eh? And we expect at some point perhaps the price would come down and we can do other things that we are not capable of doing right now based on costs. Yeah? But I will say we'll take your suggestion on board and see how we can come up with a game plan in that regard.
Yeah, you asked me that question. I think I had a session with residents in the Hamilton area, and you asked me that question. So I know it's something you're passionate about. It is something we'll have to look at. Nevis has not traditionally had government-owned daycare, as far as I'm aware. But I hear what you're saying. I understand, because clearly there's a need for care for young children, and for those who are not earning as much. The numbers you just gave me are staggering, because I'm saying if you're only making $1,500 and $900 is going to daycare, you still have to feed the children, you still have to feed yourself. So I hear you. What I will do is commit to us looking to see what could be possible in relation to this. There's a model in St. Kitts, so I'm fairly certain that we should be able to get from St. Kitts what has worked over there. So I'll make that commitment that this is something that we'll look at in the new year. We're going through the budgetary process now. It's for the new year, so it will be something we'll look at. I think that the wrap up, I think, you had indicated, or do we have more questions?
The question is basically, okay, question.
Good night, everyone. This question is for Mark Brantley. Coming here to Nevis from Jamaica under my husband's ship. Coming here going 5 years now, can't get any work because me come on my husband permit. And for him alone to work, it's really, really hard, really tough, because working and paying $900 for rent, the kids to go to school, gas to buy, you know, etc., etc., and just him alone. So everywhere I turn, if you don't have a work permit, because going 5 years now, I don't need a work permit again. I have to have a annual residency with employment, and I just can't get it either.
Why can't you get it? I don't understand.
Because I'm still paying for residency, and each time I pay for residency, I just get in temporary residency without employment.
Listen, call me in the morning, okay? 662-6003, because I don't understand why that is after 5 years.
5 years.
662-6003. You gonna remember? I'm gonna see you right, you know. 662-6003, all right? I don't like when people have these minor issues, and because we have been working within our national community very closely. We just had an amnesty. We put things in place so that people could be more comfortable. There's no reason why you're here for 5 years and can't work. 662-6003. So send me a WhatsApp on that, and we will try and sort you out, okay? All right.
Okay, any more questions from the crowd? Or the audience? No? All right, we have two more questions from the live, and this, based on these questions, this will be a closing off questions. First question to Honorable Brand. COVID has delayed many projects. Has there been any progress on the community center in St. Paul's? And also, what are your plans moving forward? That was a general question, so we will use that to close off, so each minister can answer that question.
Thank you very much for that question. Again, not that we are trying to make excuse, but my cabinet colleague would tell you that I would have tabled in cabinet my proposal for a community center in the Ramsbury area. And as most things, we were faced with situations of COVID and finances. The one good thing, though, is that the landowner have said to me on numerous occasions, the land is there, the land is not going anywhere, they don't intend to sell the land, the government can have the land whenever the government needs the land, so they are basically waiting on the government for that. That's one in the Quadcode area. We also have purchased in 2019 some additional lands opposite Boko Park, that just below the nursery. Trying to remember the name of the nursery. I think it's Baby Beer Nursery or something like that. Yeah. Baby Beer Nursery. There is a piece of land there that we bought in 2019 with the intention of constructing a community facility there. So it is not that there isn't a plan for what we want to do when it comes to community centers. It is just that the situation that we face in 2020 and 2021, those initiatives had to be delayed. What are my plans for St. Paul's? I think we'll take up the whole rest of the night. But I would say a few things. We have a situation right now in Charlestown where we have two areas that is being occupied by the buses from Newcastle and from the St. James's side. And we also have the area by the Memorial Square that is being occupied by the buses from Gingerland. My goal is, and my aim is, on the outskirts of Charlestown, I have basically identified two areas already. My aim is to be able to acquire those two portions of land to build what I call a state-of-the-art bus terminal for Newcastle side and for the Gingerland side. I personally feel that it is high time that persons who frequent the use of these buses must be in a much more conducive environment Sometimes you have rain, you have bad weather, it creates a difficulty. I believe that sometimes persons want to relieve themselves, there really isn't any facility for them to relieve themselves. So that is two projects that I've been keeping an eye on in the new dispensation. The other issue that we also face in Charlestown is we have a pier in Charlestown that was damaged by a hurricane some years ago, Fisherman Pier. My hope is to have that pier fully constructed or reconstructed in the new dispensation. Again, it goes back to finances. We talk about the Ramsbury playfield. It is my hope to see that playfield fully developed and expanded as one of the main sporting facility in Charlestown. Because again, we have to decide what we are going to do with E.T. Willett Park. Talk about community centers. Again, it goes back to financing. Now, one of the big things that I think that perhaps it may have been an oversight on all of our part at this head table, but it is incumbent upon us to try and ensure that we create the necessary environment for employment. Now, in St. Paul's, we have a few persons that have been looking for work for some time. And it is my aim to ensure that we create the necessary environment for these persons to gain gainful employment. Now, the Minister of Youth and Sports would say to you that there is a number of avenues for our young people, not only to get training, but also to get financing to start their own business. We have the Yes to Success facility at Penny's. And it is my hope that we can see a number of our young people utilize that facility to get certain training, electrical, plumbing, air conditioning, so that they can earn a living for themselves. We have coming on stream the TVET program. This, I'm very excited about the TVET program because this, again, is creating the necessary opportunity for our young people to get certain technical training for them to gain gainful employment. There are numerous opportunities for our young people, and I believe that this is just two avenues for them to get the necessary training to earn a substantial living. And I will stop there for the time being.
Well, I will also give some ideas to where we'll be headed over the next dispensation. And I say that to say this, that jobs will be one of the most important things that we'll have to look at moving forward. How would we do that? Of course, we spoke about the Van Samer International Airport, but we also have to look at additional infrastructural development that will transform the island of Nevis. One such thing would be the expansion of the Long Point facility to accommodate cruise tourism. Indeed, we feel that would be important to us as an island because there are so many spin-offs from that, and I would say that that will be a huge priority for us moving forward over the next 5 years. And indeed, in my constituency, when I get there, we can talk about things over in the St. James area because, of course, we're in the north of the island and we want to have all of the amenities and services that are required there to ensure that we can sustain ourselves there in the event of any disaster, for example. We believe that it is time that we build what is called a polyclinic in the Potworks area and benefit from the proximity to the Medical University of the American, use the services that they can provide us with as well. So we're thinking about that as one of the upgrades or one of the additional bit of infrastructure we can provide in St. James. Plus also with the construction of the new police station there, we believe it is time for us to have ambulance service in the area as well, so that you can cut down on the time of the service delivery that can be available to patients who need immediate attention. So we have to provide these things in the north so that we can make our citizens more comfortable and have that comfort of mind that if something were to go wrong, whether there is a fire, whether there is some illness, that the delivery of service will be prompt. And that is how you move as an island. If you're developing, you must develop all of the services, all of the ancillary services that are needed to make sure that you're getting where you want to get to. So employment will be key, and I believe this cruise facility would provide opportunities for everyone, meaning taxi operators, restaurateurs, and those people who provide services to the tourism sector. So that would be key. And of course, Brand would have given his bit, but of course, Brantley also would have mentioned what are the spin-off from geothermal as we go forward. So there are some exciting times ahead. And when we produce our manifesto, that will also provide you with all of our plans and programs leading to the next 5 years to come. So I want you to understand that we're on a course that we should not waver in any way. Don't gamble with your future in this island. Your future looks bright with your CCM party because we have gone through the tough times. We've gone through the tough times, and we're coming out of the pandemic, going into what they call now endemic, and we are seeking to put things in place so that when we get to the next term, then you'll see the transformation of this island to the point where we'll all be proud and happy that we live on this blessed island called Nevis. I'll turn you over to the Premier.
Yeah, plans for the future. We are coming to a close, but let me quickly reiterate that we intend to do the airport project. We intend to do the seaport project that you would have heard in order to accommodate crews, but also to expand our ability to deal with cargo. One of the things that we are concerned about is that we could create a transshipment point there at Long Point. We have adequate land to expand, so we actually have a plan already for that. We want to do a very exciting project that we've conceptualized, which is the South Coast Road. Most people would know that we have thousands of acres of land running from Long Point all the way around the South Coast to Handley's Road. We want to do a road there. We've already asked for the necessary designs to be done. Geothermal and green energy, we've spoken about that with all the spin-offs. In terms of education, we have committed to separating the sixth form college from the Charleston Secondary School, and we are now seeking to identify a site for that. And we also, of course, have already constructed one TVET center in Gingerland. We will be doing a second, larger one in Charlestown, and that will take us forward in terms of vocational training. And vocational training is really for those who are not as interested in the French, Spanish, English, and math, to do things like air conditioning, mechanics, cosmetology, etc. We've actually sent youngsters off to be trained already at university to come back to teach, and we hope to have that going on stream. We also, of course, would want to have people who already know how to fix a car, for example. A lot of our people have learned to do things by actually observing, being an apprentice, but they have no paper, they have no certificate. So we also want to afford those the opportunity to go and be certified. The reason I say that is because fellas are here wiring houses and say they're electrician, and they do a great job. But if they were ever to leave Nevis and go to the Virgin Islands or go to New York, and they go to somebody's job and they say, I've come because I'm applying, I'm an electrician, the first thing they're going to ask them is, where's your certificate? And they have nothing to show, because everything is up here. So we want to change all that and allow our people to be certified. The Deputy Premier and Minister of Agriculture have spoken about the broiler industry. We're very excited about that. It may surprise you all because we're surrounded by water, but we eat more chicken than fish. Chicken is actually cheaper than fish. And so getting involved in the chicken industry, doing chicken parts, I think is really wonderful. And what we're trying to do, as he explained, is to get small farmers involved, and then they feed their chickens to a central processing point that the government will control. We are pretty impressed with already the number of people, local investors, who have said that they have that interest. The hospital, certainly we want to finish that hospital wing, and we want to introduce things like dialysis at the hospital. We have been waiting a long time for that. That is on its way. We have the Gingerland Market. I believe that some work should shortly start on that, and that will continue in the new year. We are committed to the Westbury Fountain Mount Lily Road restoration. That is a very important bypass road that we will need to do. And the second very important bypass road that we'll need to do is the Church Ground Hamilton Road. Because if you're coming down the Island Main Road and there's any problem, then you can detour via Church Ground and Hamilton to get into town. We are already well on the way to a new dispatch system. I'm quite proud of that. what we're seeking to do is to get something similar to the 911 system that you have in other countries. But when that is installed here, we're working with the Homeowners Foundation at Four Seasons. We're now at the point of ordering equipment. And when that is installed, it means that when you dial one number, whether it's 911, 111, 611, whatever that number is, somebody will answer, and you have immediate access to the hospital, emergency services, fire, police, and what are they called over Brian Dyer? Disaster preparedness. So the idea is to have that really working properly, and we're looking to see, so they're going to put up some new towers, and they're going to put the necessary equipment in place. So all the police now will be equipped to respond quickly. There'll be a central dispatching, and that will be, again, a quantum leap forward for us. And so we're looking forward to all of these government projects, but in addition, of course, we hope to have some private sector investment as well to assist in generating jobs. So I agree that more will be spelled out in the manifesto. These are just some broad ideas, the details of which we will outline. And the conversation that we hope to continue to have, we will be outlining more as we go forward. And we thank you for coming tonight. We thank you for your questions. And we certainly look forward to engaging with you in the days and weeks and months ahead. Thank you very much.